You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Bob, co-founder of Mission Canine Rescue. And what they do is they bring canine dogs home and place in comfortable, loving homes after they retire. Welcome, Bob.
Polly, thanks for the invitation today. It's very nice to meet you, and I'm happy to have the chance to visit with you and your audience on your show.
Great. So tell us, what is Mission Canine?
Mission Canine Rescue is an organization, a 501c3 nonprofit that was founded back in 2013. We're 10 years old. We are based out of the Houston, Texas area, Magnolia to be specific. We operate all over the world, and in the last 10 years, we brought home over 1,250 retiring or retired working dogs of all types, from the military, contractors, Customs and Border Protection, TSA, other civilian contracted search dogs. And of those, 650 roughly have been reunited with handlers that they served with.
Oh, so what is the difference between a military working dog and a contractor working dog?
Okay, it would be a contract working dog. They are owned by contractors. Technically, there is no difference in the training they receive or what they are taught to do. The difference is that the contract working dogs are privately owned, where obviously the military owns the military working dogs. And we find that we have more difficulty with the contract dogs because contractors many times tend to be poor financial planners. And as a result, when money gets tight, the dogs are first to suffer. Well, the military cares for the dogs after retirement. Many times contractors will stick dogs in kennels, and sometimes we get back a dog that's severely underweight, it's got health problems, it's got PTSD. They suffer much more frequently from poor contractors than do military dogs.
Oh, so there's no laws or regulations for the contract dogs?
Unfortunately, no. We personally wish that enough people would get up in arms, they would storm government and demand that contractors taking dogs abroad on missions have adequate funding to fund the dog's health care, food, and a trip home when they retire. Sadly, that has not happened, and I don't know that it will happen. We can always work on it, though.
And so does your organization help with that issue? Like if listeners want to get involved?
Oh, yes. That's exactly the purpose for our existence. We are told of dogs constantly that are in whatever place, anywhere from Somalia, Colombia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Japan. When these dogs need to come home, either the contractors or the military members that handle the dogs will reach out to us and say, hey, my dog is a military working dog, such and such. He's being dispositioned as excess, meaning retired. In a few weeks, he's in Japan. Can you help us get him home? The reason they ask us is, for instance, places like Japan, to get a dog home from Japan is about a $6,000 price tag for transport. In 2016, President Obama at the time signed an addendum to the National Defense Authorization Act that had a clause in it requiring the military to bring dogs to American soil when they were retired overseas. The military dodged this by calling forward operating bases American soil. So even though now we're seeing some cooperation with dogs being placed on rotator flights, they bring troops in and out, and sometimes we get a few dogs back. Even though they do that, we still have the responsibility for stateside transport to wherever they might be going.
And so where do the dogs end up when it's time to retire?
Well, when it's time to retire, most of them, they end up stuck in a kennel somewhere. When we bring them back, we rehabilitate them if they need that. We provide them any health care needed. We teach them how to be dogs again. They don't have to chase the bad guy. They don't have to find the bomb. They can just learn to play and have a good retirement life. We seek homes for the dogs that are in our care that don't have handlers. We're very specific about who we adopt to, in that they must be able to afford the cost of vet care and that they meet the needs that the dog requires. Most working dogs don't like other dogs, and unfortunately, the majority of the adoption candidates we get are dog lovers, and they may have 5 or 6 dogs in the house or cats, and a lot of times that just doesn't work. So it's often difficult, yet we still manage to place them all.
And do you place the dogs all over the United States?
Yes, we do. We adopt to all 50 states, including Hawaii and Alaska.
And are you having any fundraisers where listeners can help this cause? We
always have fundraisers going. If they want to visit donate.missionk9rescue.org, they can get a glimpse of what some of our current work includes. We do approximately $2 million a year worth of work. So the need is constantly great. However, none of our staff flies first class. They don't sit in leather seats. They don't stay in fancy hotels. We've got 2 hardworking ladies, our president, Kristen Maurer, and our vice president, Louisa Kastner. They drive all over the country in rented vans. They sleep in roadside parks with stinky dogs in crates, and they do a wonderful work 24/7. They work way too much, in my opinion. And of $1 that you give Mission K9, 92 cents actually goes to the dogs. We're really no profit.
So are you getting new dogs in every day, or how does that work?
I would say we intake between 7 and 20 dogs a month, depending on the need and how, who reaches out to us. Yes.
And so what age is a dog usually retired from the military?
I've seen anywhere from 9 years old to 13 years old, the majority being about 10 or 11. It all depends on their drive. When the dog loses drive, the military has no use for them.
And do a lot of times the handlers in U.S. adopt them or no?
Oh, almost all the time. A military dog can have up to 5 handlers in its career. And generally, the last handler will adopt the dog. However, the first handler always has the option. And people will ask, well, why wouldn't he adopt his dog? In many cases, you've got a bike-trained Belgian Malinois that may be also trained in explosive detection, and it's just too much of a risk for young children. We take all that into account when we place these dogs. We don't want any dogs getting in trouble just simply because of the nature in which they were trained.
Sure.
We provide them whatever vet care is needed when they get here, and we make sure that these dogs are healthy and happy before they go to a home. We have a facility in Magnolia where we house them, and we help to rescue, reunite, rehabilitate, repair, and then rehome them when they come into our care.
Well, thank you very much for being on the podcast. And can you just let people know again how they get a hold of Mission K9 to either volunteer or donate?
Sure. Mission K9's website address is mission, the letter K, the number 9, rescue.org. If you want to get a glimpse at all of our recent work, you can look at Facebook and search for Mission K9. We're also on Instagram under that. We don't maintain much of a Twitter presence. I find it rather useless for most purposes. But most of our work is showcased on Facebook under Mission Canine, and you can donate there or on our website if you choose to. And we also, we occasionally use fosters. However, due to the nature of the dogs, it's a seldom kind of thing. Most of our fosters, most of our volunteers do things like they help us with events, they get the word out about us, that sort of thing.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, and we look forward to having you back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.